In this video, I'm going to share with you the top 25 appliance repair parts that every appliance technician should have on their van in 2026. I will say that this was a rather difficult video to make, and the reason why is because I have a van jam full of stock parts that I actually use on a pretty regular basis. But instead of just going there and grabbing random parts and saying, oh yeah, I use this a pretty good bit, no, yeah, I use that a pretty good bit, I decided to go off of data instead, so that way the market can decide what is the top 25 parts that we should have on the van. So I printed out a report on my entire fiscal year of 2025, and I just had it all listed in the top, the part that we used the most, and it just went down, 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 down. So I gathered up 25 of the parts that I used the most in 2025 for the entire year. But also, like I said, it was difficult because I'm like, oh man, but I use this part pretty regularly as well. I wish that I could add that on there. So to keep the video, to a minimum, I'm going to show you the top 25. But if you'll stay to the end, I will give you a list of the top 50 parts, so that way you can actually have a list, print it out, or look them up, or buy them, or do whatever you want to do. But the parts that I'm going to show you right now today is based on data, not just based on me grabbing things out of my van and saying, oh yeah, I used that last week. No, it's based on data. The parts that I used the most, the top 25, and here they go. Part number one, by far, this one was a long stretch. I'm talking about this beats every part. I mean, it's not even close. It is 5304-526183. This is an Electrolux or Frigidaire defrost timer for a top mount refrigerator. This is what it looks like on the back side. You can see through the bag, so I'm not going to take it out of the bag. But this is a defrost timer. I'm sure you've seen a defrost timer before, but Electrolux, Frigidaire, they've made these top mount refrigerators, and they have had tons of trouble with these defrost timers. And what they'll do is they'll either freeze in the defrost cycle, so they literally, like, you can't turn that dial in there. You can't turn the timer because it gets like welded shut or something on the inside, or it will stick to a situation where it's defrost, it's defrosting, it's using the heater, and it's trying to cool at the same time. So essentially you need one of these right here. Every one of our vans is stocked with a few of these, because there's been times before in the past where we've seen 2 and 3 of these per day for one van. So we stock these, and these are absolutely killers for us. Next part on the list, this one is definitely not up there with the number 1, but this one is far above number 3 and all the rest of them. This is the Electrolux or Frigidaire oven igniter, glow igniter. It's a 5303-935066. So we order this universal one, and you can actually put this one on a lot of different models, but there it is right there. I'll show you that. That is a very good, I guess you might call a universal oven igniter. And to be completely honest with you, you just do whatever you want to do, but to be honest with you, you'll look at a lot of different brands, whether it's, I don't know, GE or, even the higher end brands, Samsung, and you will see that their oven igniter looks identical to this one right here. So you can keep this on your van as like a universal one, which is kind of what we do. Frigidaire makes one, it looks identical to this, but it already has a connector built onto it. Much more expensive. For me, it's not really necessary. They give you the wire nuts and all that good stuff to splice this one in, so I prefer to go with this one. So this is number 2 by far. It beats number 3 and all the rest of them, this Frigidaire oven igniter. Next one on the list, again based on data for my area, is this under-counter Icemaker recirculation pump motor, W11542867. So this is another good reason why I'm going to put a list of the top 50, because you might be in such an area where you don't have under-counter Icemakers, but if you do have under-counter Icemakers, I promise you, you're going to need this pump right here, and this is exactly what it looks like. So it is a recirculation pump motor, and it recirculates the water. It pulls it up from the water reservoir and recirculates it over the actual freeze plate. Well, there is a water level sensor built into this pump. This is the newer style. It looks like a little car connector, and they do that because it's kind of like waterproof. That way you don't get moisture and it eat up those wires like the older ones used to do. but this has a built-in water level sensor. And what tends to happen is over time that water level sensor stops working. So it doesn't know when the reservoir is full, and it allows the water valve to just continue to fill, and prematurely burns up the water valve. So then you have a double whammy. But also it affects the ice production cycle. You know, a normal ice production cycle should run about 25 minutes or 26 minutes or so, and this will shut it down short because it thinks that it's the water level is dropped to a certain point to where it's time to harvest. And then you might only get this really thin sheet of ice. So this is a very, very popular part, this under-counter Icemaker recirculation pump motor. Number 4 on the list, again, is an under-counter Icemaker water valve, which is part number W10897719. And it just goes along with what I was saying about the recirculation pump motor. If the recirculation pump motor fails and it just continues to let the water valve fill and fill and fill and fill, it eventually just prematurely burns up that little water valve. So then you get very, very low water pressure coming out of this water valve. And then essentially it just messes up the whole ice production cycle. So based on data, this is another part that has been very popular in our area, this water valve. Number 5 is going to be this Frigidaire dryer belt 134503600. And I'm not going to remove it from the package. You know what a dryer belt looks like, but this happens to be a really good seller for us amongst other dryer belts. But like I said, we're just going based on data down the list, and this was a very popular one in 2025. Part number 6 happens to be another dryer belt, and this one's a GE dryer belt, WE03X29897. Again, I'm not going to open it out the package. You know what a dryer belt looks like, but this happens to be the next one on the list. Number 7 on the list, a very popular part and a very good money maker. It is a GE washing machine drain pump, part number WH23X28418. This is one of like the newer style washing machines where they have started putting the drain pump, flush against the bottom of the drum or the bottom of the tub, and this thing just fails all the time. It is a very, very popular part. One of the more unfortunate things, whenever this part fails, you don't have a tub to pump hose. If you had a tub to pump hose, you could use hose clamp pliers, clamp it off. That's a little pro tip. Use those hose clamp pliers, pinch that off, change your pump, put your new one on, and then remove your pliers, and then let the new pump out the water. But this goes straight to the bottom of the tub, so whatever water you have left inside the actual tub, you got to get it out before you can replace this pump. But it is a good money maker because you could charge extra for removing the water out of the tub also. Very popular part. Number 8, we're back to under-counter ice makers, and it would be this bin thermistor, WPW10511923. And it looks just like that. It looks like a little L or like a hockey stick. And what happens is, if you look on the inside, like the right wall of the inside of an under-counter ice maker, you've got this little guy right here that sits against that wall. The ice should mound up, and whenever it touches the bin thermistor, it tells the control board, by resistance, it tells the control board that, hey, it's full, it's time to quit producing ice. Very, very quick fix, easy fix, huge money maker. What happens is, you just get a customer that says, this thing is not stopping to produce ice. You open the door, ice just comes pouring out. It's because the resistance of this guy has started to deviate from what it's supposed to. And then, you get ice all over the floor. It doesn't stop producing. All you do is you scoop out a few, big scoops of ice, get it back down to the proper level, change this bad boy out in like 10 minutes or so, or 10 minutes or less, and that's it. You're on your way. Very popular part. Number 9 on the list is going to be this Samsung dryer roller, DC9716782A. And it is exactly what you would think. It's a dryer roller. But here's the way that I do it. If I have to replace a roller, I really prefer to replace the stud along with the roller. Because sometimes what will happen is, if you only try to replace the roller, not every time, but sometimes, if the roller has gotten bad enough, it'll like create grooves and stuff into the actual shaft itself. So then you could put a new roller on there and you still kind of got issues because your shaft is also bad as well. So the best practice in order to take care of the issue the first time and not have a callback is by doing the roller and the shaft. So this, based on data, this is a very popular part this year. Number 10, if you've been in appliance repair for even 3 months, you know that GE makes horrible washer and dryer knobs. They suck. That's all I can say. They what happens is the knobs will eventually, you know, they turn them and the timers get stiff and people are just a little bit too aggressive with them, and the little knobs just they start to crack where the shaft goes in. So this right here is one of the most popular ones that we see, but I think because the timer gets so stiff and then they start to strip out. But you got WE01X24552. It's one of the bigger knobs like that. Very popular part. Number 11 on the list is going to be this Whirlpool dryer heating element, WP3387747. I'll open it up so you can see what it looks like. Looks like this guy right here. So it's just an insert. You'll take this out of the whole heater can and slide this new one right back in there. But based on data, this is a very popular part this year. And ironically, part number 12 just so happens to be a very, very similar part to part number 11, which is also another Whirlpool dryer heating element, but this one's just slightly different. WP85447771. It is very, very similar to the other one. I think it's just a little bit longer or a little bit shorter. I'm not going to open it because it looks identical to the other one, but just a tad bit either longer or shorter. But also this runs right there with the other one. Very popular part. Number 13 on the list is going to be a Whirlpool dryer belt, 341241. And again, I'm not going to open it or anything. You know exactly what a dryer belt looks like, but it is a very popular belt, 341241. Number 14 on the list, again, is a Whirlpool dryer heating element, part number 279838. I'll open this one up so you can see what this one looks like, because this one is different than the other ones. This is pretty much, it has the housing and the heating element all built in together. This goes on the back side of Whirlpool dryers where the back comes off, and it just has 2 screws that holds it in place. But this is also a very popular Whirlpool heating element. Number 15 on the list is going to be this LG washer drain pump motor 4681EA 2001T. This is, if you don't have one of these on your van around here, you're just missing out. You got to have this LG washing machine drain pump. And the good thing is most of the LG washers, that they pretty well use this same drain pump. So you just take the 3 or 4 screws out of the housing and pull this apart, put the new one in, and it's good to go. It's a real good money maker, and I definitely would not be caught without this on my van. Number 16 on the list, I don't have a physical part right here in front of me, and I'll tell you why. It's because we keep one of these in stock at the office. We don't keep them on the vans because the part is actually pretty expensive to stock, but it is TCA 38151706. That is an LG compressor, and it cost us like $275 or $300, somewhere around there. I have to check and see, but we keep that at the office. If someone needs that part, they'll stop there, they'll get it, they'll go to the call with it and all that good stuff, and then we just keep one in stock at the office. But based on data, we replaced several of those back in 2025, so that is another part that is very good to keep in stock. Part number 17 is going to be a Whirlpool washer, what they call a slider. It's W10734521. It looks just like this right here. It comes with all these different components. Typically what happens, and the reason why such a thing would go bad, because I know it all looks like there's nothing really there to go bad, but what does happen, you've got this little metal ring around the actual slider, and a magnet pulls up that metal ring or pulls it down one way or the other, but it moves it. And then that's how you engage and disengage between like agitation and between spin. But what'll happen is the metal, the little tabs that hold that metal to the plastic, those little plastic tabs, they break or they shear off or whatever happens, and then the actual metal just moves without actually moving the plastic. So that's why you would have to replace this, and it is actually a very common thing, which is why it made it on the top 25 list. Part number 18, if you've been in the appliance repair industry for any time, you'll know that Whirlpool dryers, they have a very high failure rate for their thermal cutoffs. And this part number is 279816. This comes with the operating thermostat and the thermal fuse. Both of these will be on the side of the heater. Now, here's a pro tip. Whirlpool does this for you, which I think is nice. If you have to replace the thermal fuse, there's a reason why. You know, it's probably because the heating element overheated. So they go ahead and make you replace the operating thermostat, which is really, really nice. But the pro tip part is you should be doing that anyway. If you go on a Samsung call or an LG call or whatever, Samsung will sell you the thermal fuses separately. But it is my recommendation, it's my pro recommendation that you replace the operating thermostat if you have to replace the thermal fuse, because there's a reason why it overheated. And I know you're probably thinking, well, it might be because of airflow, but that's typically another fuse, and we'll talk about that later. But this one is a very popular part, which is why it made it on the top 25 list. Ironically, part number 19, back to the Whirlpool dryer. It's going to be part number WP3392519, and there you have it. There is your thermal fuse that is on the blower wheel. So as I said, a lot of people think that, well, if the thermal fuse on the heating element blew, we might have an airflow issue, and I guess that could possibly be maybe also, but typically the operating thermostat will keep that regulated. This right here is your fail-safe if you have bad airflow, or you have no airflow or whatever. This thing will blow. It shuts power down to the entire dryer. That way you can't use the dryer at all until you replace this. And then ultimately, if you see this blown, you need to be checking for airflow, or you need to be checking for some kind of issue like that. So there's no wonder that this made it to the top 25 list. Part number 20 is going to be a Whirlpool dryer timer. Part number WPW10185982. This is a very popular timer, and what happens is a lot of people will say, in most cases, the complaint for this timer is going to be the dryer doesn't heat anymore. I've got another pro tip for you right here. So whenever you set dryer timers, you always go in the clockwise motion. One thing that I've learned, just for a very fast confirmation, just to see whether or not it's possibly the dryer timer before I tear everything apart and start testing power and start testing fuses and start testing elements and everything, all I do is I take this, instead of going clockwise to set the cycle, I go counterclockwise, come all the way back around to a heat cycle, and I keep that tension, that counterclockwise kind of tension, that counterclockwise, like, pressure against the timer. Press start, and you'll be surprised at how many times it will shock you, and it'll not shock you, like it'll shock you up here and be like, oh, it's heating now. The reason why is because the contacts inside this timer, I guess they've gotten fatigued and they're not really making contact whenever you go that normal way. But if something about going counterclockwise and holding that pressure there, it pushes those contacts together. It will heat, at least while you're holding it. And then of course, usually whenever you go back the other way, it stops heating again. But I didn't have to test power. I didn't have to test the thermal fuse. I didn't have to test a heating element. One simple trick, in 10 seconds, I knew exactly what was wrong with the dryer and that it was this timer. And then I keep them on the van because it's so popular. So this is one that I would definitely keep on the van. Part number 21 is a Whirlpool dishwasher rack adjuster kit. Part number W10712395. You have a lot of complaints about the top racks on Whirlpool and probably Maytag and probably KitchenAid dishwashers. They're just about all the same. That they probably use this part. If they use it, it'll be listed on the part number. Put it that way, or it'll be listed as a part number. But pretty much all it is you take off all of those old components and you put on this brand new stuff, which is a lot more heavier duty, like plastic, and then of course your metal track and stuff like this, or your metal rack wheels and all that good stuff. So this comes as a nice little kit with different things in the kit. It just pretty much rebuilds the adjuster part of that top rack, and I've never had any issues with these after making the rebuild. So that is a very, very common part. And again, data shows that this was a very big part last year in 2025. Part number 22 on the list is back to a Whirlpool washer, or probably even Maytag washer. but this is a cam. It's very similar to the slider, except this one works, it does its own little kind of thing in order to shift between agitation and the spin cycle. So it uses like this whole cam system, and whenever you put it all together, once it once it rotates, it pulls those teeth away from those teeth, and then that way you can have spin, and then once it engages you can have agitate, or vice versa, whichever one it is. But anyway, this is another very common part that fails, and it's a good one to keep on the van. Number 23 on the list is a Whirlpool dryer tensioner pulley. It is part number W10837240, and it looks just like that. You probably know what a tensioner pulley is. It just goes right there and it keeps tension against the belt. It'll have a spring, on it, keeps tension against the belt. But for whatever reason, they just start to, they wear out, they make a whole bunch of noise, and then you'll have to replace them. Pretty simple repair though. Number 24 on the list is a Whirlpool, Maytag, and possibly KitchenAid refrigerator LED light module. Part number W11632139. You'll notice that in the refrigerator, maybe 2 or 3, or maybe just one, but possibly 2 or 3 or 4 lights have gone out all at once. It's not always more than one light. Most of the time it's only one light. What happens is they're in a series. If one of them in the beginning of the series burns out or whatever, it takes out the whole series. It's almost like Christmas lights. But this little kit actually replaces all 3 of them, and it's supposed to be a better design. I think there's 3 LEDs in there versus 1. But anyway, you'll get, and what I mean is 3 LEDs in one little module, 3 little light bulbs. Yes, there is 3 modules in one pack, but that's what I meant, 3 LED lights in per module. So anyway, they give you the entire kit so that way you can make the repair and replace them all, because I think they all start off as one little LED light in each module, and now you have 3 LED lights in each module. Number 25 on the list is a Whirlpool refrigerator evaporator fan motor, part number WP2315539. I'm gonna open it up so you can see it. It's a very simple little fan motor. You know what a fan motor looks like. But these fail often, and my theory of why they fail, I could be completely wrong, I don't know, but if you look in the backside very closely, you'll see there's a circuit board in here that is encapsulated in gel. So my theory is moisture eventually probably infiltrates that little gel coating or whatever, gets into the motor, and it gets into the circuit board, and then before you know it, the motor doesn't work anymore. So it's a very, very easy repair. You just take a couple screws out, take the fan blade off, put this one in there, and everything is good to go. So I have a bonus one for you, number 26. I couldn't keep this off the list because this is for us a really big money maker. It's one that we replace all the time. It was right there at 26, so I got to give it to you. It is a GE refrigerator with the dual evaporators. We hardly ever see any issues with the freezer evaporator fan motor, but with the fresh food evaporator fan motor, part number WR60X35205, this little computer style fan motor, that thing fails all the time. So it either quits or it starts making this horrible whining noise, but they fail all the time, and we replace these all the time. Like I said, it made it to 26, and I had to throw that one in there because it's a very popular one. So that's gonna be it. That's gonna be the top 25 or 26 parts that based on data we use the most in 2025. So it's very popular parts, and you should have those for 2026. But like I said, there's so many more parts that I would love to be able to share with you, because there are other parts that we use a lot of the times, and they're on the vans. So I'm going to leave a link in the description below for you to be able to go and get a list to the top 50 parts. At least that way you'll have a really good foundation. If you have those 50 parts on your van, you should really be able to do good and really be able to make a lot of first call completes. And if you know me, I preach first call completes. That's how you make your most money. If you can show up to a call with these parts on your van, and it be the most common parts that need to be repaired and stuff, or need to be replaced, that's how you make the most money. Is you give them that quote, and then you go ahead and repair it on the spot versus having to leave and come back a whole nother day. You don't make as much money that way. So there's going to be a link in the description below for you to be able to download, or however I do it, I'll get it to you somehow, the top 50 parts that'll be on my van based on data once again. So it's not like I'm just pulling things off my van and giving them to you based on data. These are going to be the top 50 parts, but I hope you enjoyed this video. If you will, make sure to comment down below, like the video, and subscribe to the channel if you have not subscribed yet. And I appreciate it very much. See you on the next one.